Hello? Yes. Hi, I'm Sara Vilkomerson. I'm with Entertainment Weekly. I'm so excited to be here. As you guys just saw, this is one of my favorite shows I've seen in forever. And we're so lucky to have the cast here, so I wanted to bring them out. We have John Lithgow. We have the Queen herself, Claire Foy. Matt Smith, Prince Philip. Jared Harris. And we have Vanessa Kirby. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Congratulations. This is such a wonderful show, and I sort of just wanted to start and go down the line on how each of you, became a part of this project. John, you can start.
This is really fun. It's the first time it's been just actors. We feel like kids after the teacher has left the room. No Daldry and no Morgan. Isn't this fun?
We've got rid of the dictators.
Say anything.
I just got a call from that man right there, my agent, who mentioned Daldry and Peter Morgan and Winston Churchill and Netflix and London for 8 months. And I think I said yes before he got halfway through that. It was very terrifying and very exciting. As I've said on many occasions, I never would have cast myself in this role, but I was thrilled that Stephen had the insane thought of hiring me for it. The only person I knew who was involved was Claire, and I had seen her already in Wolf Hall and knew many people who had worked with her. And no. They all just loved her, so I knew that was in place. And actually, I read all 10 episodes immediately, like that weekend, and I was just crazy excited. And this was a good 5 months before I started work on it. And spent that 5 months just immersing myself in Churchill and Churchilliana, and reading and finding as much audio and video as I could, and then as soon as we started shooting, did my best to forget all of that and accept myself as Churchill. So that's...
And Claire, and this was a big audition process, because this is a pivotal role, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as... I've definitely gone out for jobs where I've done more auditions, but it was just, went in, met them, and sort of wasn't taking it massively seriously, because it just seemed too ridiculous that I could play the Queen or even go up for the job. So I just really enjoyed it and was really grateful for being there. And then they asked me to come back again and did sort of, I don't know whether did you do this, where you had to go in and dress up? No, of course you didn't dress up as Prince Philip. Well, I dressed up as the Queen, not in my own clothes. They gave me things to wear. 5 months pregnant, which you can imagine looked a bit weird.
You have like a weird wig as well.
Wig, crown, dress,
And
baby.
This was before they had offered it to you?
Oh God, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, and then obviously after that, I thought that's never going to happen, and then my agent phoned me and said they want you to do it, and I immediately did that classic thing of going, oh my God, how exciting! Oh my God, I've got to do it! Oh my God, and then was terrified, and then Matt Smith came in.
Wonderful segue. Yes, I did one audition, and then I came back and did another, which was with Claire. Well, they did tell me to wear a suit. They said, wear something smart, which I did. And then Claire was, by that point, probably 8 or 9 months pregnant, nearly. You were having the baby. And then we did a little thing together, a little, screen test or whatever it is. And then they said, do you want to do it? And I procrastinated for months, and then I said yes. Jared Harris.
I got the same good phone call from the agent. They said they want you to come play George VI for 2 episodes in it, and I said, well, what's wrong with Colin Firth? They said he wants too much money. And I read the script, and it was fantastic, and I said, yeah, absolutely, and tried not to think of Colin Firth. And then every day when we'd go in, remember at Elstree, that huge, huge poster of Colin Firth in the King's Speech. Every time you'd walk out to go to the set, every time. At the end, I thought I had to embrace the Colin Firth because he looks absolutely nothing like George VI, and neither do I. But it didn't hurt him, so.
I think mine is the most embarrassing of everybody's because I'd already read the scripts for a different part, and it was like several months later, and I was walking down the street, and my friend rang me and said, "Oh, I went in for Princess Margaret, but I didn't get it, and they've been looking for 6 months, and they couldn't find her." And I sort of put down the phone and went, "Fuck! It's because it's me." and I didn't, and I've never had that with a job ever before, and it sounds really fucking arrogant, but I was just. Like, I just knew it for some reason, and then I sort of rang my agent, and I was like, this is really embarrassing, but I think it's me. And then I don't know about that. So, yes, then 2 weeks later it was me. So somehow it worked out. But, I don't do that with every job.
Well, as you guys have seen from the first episode, and it just keeps going for the rest of the series, it's so detail-oriented. I think it's really remarkable when you watch each episode, the attention to detail. And that's not, I mean, the sets and the costumes, but all of your performances, which I would imagine is hard considering you're playing real people. So I guess I'm sort of curious about when you go in to start preparing for a character like this. Do you start with trying to learn their mannerisms or their voice, or do you watch, you said you watched Churchillian tapes. Like, what is it that you guys each had to do to get yourself in the right mindset?
Well, of course, you get all these collaborators almost immediately in the form of makeup, hair, wardrobe, dialect coach, and historic advisor. We had 2 weeks rehearsal, which was really nothing much more than sitting around a table in different groups and talking mostly history. We didn't do a lot of rehearsing the scenes. We had a remarkable young woman, an American, by the way, named Annie Sulzberger, who was our historical consultant and just seemed to know everything about this period and these people. But we had Ivana Primorik, this marvelous makeup artist, helped me with the
Really
whole Churchill
brilliant.
look. And Michelle Clapton, like a 5-time Emmy-winning costume designer for Game of Thrones, a complete genius. And a man named William Conacher, who helped me with my Churchillian dialect, but I'm happy to say that he spent just as much time with them.
If not, we needed more work, I think, actually. Because it was really entrenched in our, like, that accent, that particular accent is very, very difficult. Yeah, it's not in any way how you speak.
Even the Queen, actually, if you listen to her Christmas speech when she first became the monarch, and then you listen to it now, her accents changed, and she had to take dialect lessons because they felt that her accent was so removed from the way that people spoke that it was in danger of losing touch. So yeah, it was a very weird accent.
We went through like a long process of working out exactly where to pitch the accent, whether to do it just in our own and make it sort of contemporary posh, or whether to go really, really like they actually spoke. And we eventually sort of, Steve and I remember it was really helpful. He said, look, actually what we want is it is a dialect. We have to treat it as a dialect, as if we were doing Scottish or anything, not just posh. Yeah. And that really helped, didn't you think, guys? Because like really understanding that actually it was somewhere in the middle, so that we felt like we were entering a different reality completely to anything you'd find, which it is. It's a completely different world, I think.
I think the amazing thing is that you and Claire sound like sisters. I mean, you guys have not only gotten the accent right,
Oh, we
you sound
are.
alike.
We actually are. I've dyed my hair so I can be more like her.
And then we had all sorts of wonderful newcomers added to the cast because a lot of new characters come in. Ben Miles was one of the last to come in, who plays Peter Townsend. A late episode, Stephen Delane came in to play the painter Graham Sutherland. He's a fantastic actor. And it was like opening Christmas presents, all these wonderful
Harriet
new people.
Walter.
Harriet Walter.
Harriet Walter.
And Eileen Atkins.
Eileen Atkins.
Eileen Atkins. Oh God. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
It was really an embarrassment of riches.
And, you know, each scene you guys actually traveled to all these sort of locations. This was not exactly like a soundstage sort of production.
No, and originally I think it was sort of supposed to be. I think the idea
They
was
did
that
build Buckingham Palace, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
The inside of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
I mean, not literally.
But I think they sort of realised that as time went on that it was like another character in a way, the buildings and the rooms. And I don't think it's ever treated like it's not treated like reverentially, like you're not watching the room going, it's always for a purpose. But I just think it really informs the scenes because that's where they live. They live in these extraordinary rooms with kind of gilt gold on the walls and everything like that. So
On the other hand, if you look carefully at the interiors of Downing Street 5 years after the war, there was all these mold stains and flaky wallpaper. Martin Childs was our production designer, and just the feeling of really being lived in. There was nothing sort of decorative about it.
I'm curious how educated you guys were. I know for me, when I had to watch it, there were times I had to run to Wikipedia to check on things, to see what's going on. And I don't know if you gave John any grief as being the sole American on set, but how good were you guys on your history, on your British history coming into this? And I guess sort of how much more do you feel like you know now about historical events?
Well, I've been calling him George V all week. Honestly. And no one's questioned me. But I didn't know. I was really an ignoramus, as it were. I felt like it's sort of like a history lesson. The more you watch it, you sort of go, oh. But weirdly, when you live in London, it's like Big Ben's just there. It sort of becomes overly familial. And now I drive past the palace and I have a renewed sense of, I don't know, intrigue or affection or something for it, because I've grown much more affectionate towards the royal family. It's been, I don't know, I like them more. I was just a bit indifferent to them before.
Do you guys all feel that way? Do you all feel like some sort of kinship now to the characters that you've played?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
Oh,
didn't
Maggie.
have any... What?
Old Maggie.
Maggie.
Oh, Mags.
Oh, dear old
Yeah,
Mags.
Mags. I mean, I remember her being, the only thing I remember about Margaret was that she was in like a wheelchair and she had quite a tragic life, and I just remember this sort of old woman with dark glasses, and I was like, oh, the Queen's sister, and that's literally all I knew. But when we sort of had this amazing team of researchers and we went into it, I feel so proud that we're actually able to bring these people, sort of the memories of them, well, Margaret anyway, and Peter Townsend, to the kind of public consciousness again, because I have this huge admiration for her now. There's being born into such extraordinary circumstances and actually facing, unbelievable sets of obstacles, really, within the system that she's born into. So your big sister deciding whether you can marry the love of your life or not. I mean, who has that? We know in the past it's been parents, but your sister that's 4 years older than you, as well as being so much part of that family as your whole entire identity and your place in the world, as well as trying to rebel it and resist it. So I just became so fascinated with her particular journey. And she's also a really brilliant character and soul and essence and energy, and I love doing that. But I think we've forgotten what it was like for the Queen we don't have any living memory of the Queen being 25 and having to take on that duty, and these two daughters grieving, and Philip as a man losing his livelihood. And I'm going to just talk for everyone now, so I'm going to pass it over.
It's true.
You can guess that's what I'm like. Jared.
All because George V died.
Yes.
Single-handedly rewriting history.
That's not for the first time.
Well, you do have these sort of odd ideas of. I mean, you sort of you lick the back of the Queen's head and stick her on an envelope, and you take a £10 note, and if you fold it in a certain way, it looks exactly like John McEnroe, not the Queen. So you have all these sort of weird ideas about them, but then when you start to see, well, first of course they're real people, and but then when for me, look, that footage that we saw, and I was just really struck by what a sort of absolute movie star Greek god Philip was, because we have this sort of spitting image idea of the person, you know what I mean? And how absolutely, there's that great photograph where the press tumbles to the fact that there's this relationship, and they're going in, was it to a wedding? I think they're going into a wedding, and she takes off her coat and she's handing it over to him, and there's this look that the photographer catches between the two of them, and you can see they're absolutely smitten with each other, you know? And then you realize that, of course, these people, within this weird world that they were born into, they were living normal lives and had these aspirations for themselves and dreams and that we all want for ourselves, and that we tend to forget that part of it because we see them as these sort of figureheads, you know. So and with George VI, I was particularly taken in by how he and his wife handled the war years with Churchill, and how important he was in a way to redefining what the modern monarchy was going to be, you know. There was these great little sort of anecdotes, the things that you find out when you do the research, and one of the things is that his father, George V, had an opportunity to give safe harbor to Tsar Nicholas and his family, and he refused to let them into the country. He barred them from coming in, and they were then subsequently assassinated. And the father felt terrible about that, and I think that George VI had witnessed that. So when the Second World War breaks out, and all these monarchies, of which they're all related to, are being toppled and fleeing, you know, hours ahead of the Nazis, they all came to stay at Buckingham Palace. And the Buckingham Palace was full of about 5 different monarchies of Europe. And they're all, you know, aunts and cousins and everything, running around trying to figure out who nods to who curtsies, who bows. And, it would be hysterical. It's like a Monty Python skit.
That's the series that we should have made.
That's the comedy version of The Crown.
Yeah.
But Jared, you know, you were joking about Colin Firth, but your George is very.
I wasn't joking.
But he said there's such a sweetness to his character, and you sort of get a sense of him as a father, in addition to being a ruler. And I think that's really true with all of your characters. Is there's this human element that goes well beyond, you know, the roles that they're taking as far as the country goes.
Well, again, that was something I read from the research. He had a terrible relationship. His father had been in the Navy and had this very authoritarian, sort of stentorian attitude towards the children. Sort of might see them for 5 minutes a day. The mother was cold and distant towards them. And he made a decision. You know, a lot of people would fall into that and go, well, it happened to me, so it's good enough for me, it would be good enough for my children. He decided he didn't want that to happen to his children, and he wanted to have a proper relationship and a family a unit with his children. And I said this the other day, but one of the things that struck me about that was that every day that the family were together under the same roof, from the point that they were children, the first hour of every day when they woke up, they would go to their parents' bedroom, and they would play with their parents and jump up and down on the bed and do things that children do. Even to the point where the day that Elizabeth married Philip, she went to the bedroom and spent an hour in the bedroom before the day started, and of course that was the last time that she would do that. So, you know, and it was a commitment towards that family and having that family unit being who they were, and then everything else was on top of it.
It's amazing. With Peter and Stephen, I'm assuming just a font of information and details, because they seem to worry about every single little thing looking just right. Is that right?
Yes, they were extremely thorough and prepared, but Stephen, a quite extraordinary director, does come to the set ready to change everything. He has a marvelous way with actors. Yes, he's very prepared, but it was astonishing. I'm sure you all had the same experience. He would come in and reimagine a scene and change it radically, not change the words, but often the intention. He had a wonderful device that I don't even think was that conscious, but he used the word obstacles. It's nice to talk to. Raise your hands if you're an actor, you SAG. Yes, exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. He would come in and say, I'll give you an example, a scene that you didn't see today, because you didn't see episode 2, but a perfect example is the scene with the necktie and the collar, Jared's necktie, one of the very first scenes in the piece. The difficulty they have with that necktie. I wasn't there, but I can absolutely imagine Stephen and Jared coming up with that, because he loves to throw in a difficulty that has nothing to do with the lines in the scene, some obstacle for the actors to overcome, because as the character struggles with that, so much else is revealed and emerges. And you suddenly see, that's a short scene of characters you haven't even seen yet. And by the end of that, you understand the Peter Townsend-George VI relationship completely. And so much of it has to do with the difficulty with a starched collar and a necktie. That's very much a Stephen Daldry moment. Peter Morgan sets the table beautifully, and then, Daldry comes in and serves up the food, and we eat it, or something like that.
No, but also Stephen is just, he has a way of, for example, I don't think this actually ended up in it, but in the wedding, there was this amazing supporting artist. I think she must have been about 90, and she was in a wheelchair, and she looked amazing, an amazing costume. And he decided that was what was going to happen in the wedding. It was about her. It was about seeing the wedding through her eyes, and at one point she had a boiled sweet in her mouth, and it all like another classic Stephen Daldry direction was to Bobo, my dresser, when we arrive in Kenya for the first time. You're getting prepared just to get off a plane. You're just doing a very commoner garden, walking down some stairs off an aeroplane, and Stephen Daldry will come up to you, and he whispered something in Lizzie's ear, who's the actress, and he said, and I said, and she started laughing, and we did the scene, and he came over and went brilliant like that, and I said, what did he say? And she went, he just came up and went, it smells funny here. And so she gets off the aeroplane going, like, with it wasn't necessarily about anything, the scene, but all of it adds to what Peter has written. He's given you the clues, and Stephen Daldry just goes in and is a genius, quite frankly, and gives you something to do as an actor, because there's nothing better than someone giving you a challenge or giving you giving you something to act. And so often that's not the case, and it was just, oh God, I loved it.
Well, considering we're in a room full of actors, each of you, was there a particular scene before you shot it that scared you or intimidated you, or you found the most daunting before completing?
A scene that scared me. No, I was excited about getting to work every day and couldn't wait. I was terrified before we started, but there was a very significant moment for me in this whole process. I told you about the 2 weeks of rehearsal prior to shooting. That culminated in a 2-day table reading of all 10 episodes. They were all completely done. Peter Morgan is way ahead of the game with the writing, but they assembled about 35 actors, about 60% of whom were actually going to play the roles, and we actually performed it for maybe 50 people, Netflix people, Sony International people, all the producers, 30 or 40 people. They had a big crescent-shaped set of risers, and we all sat there, and we read 10 episodes in 2 days with just a pause in between one. I was terrified about that, because that was the day when I unveiled my Churchill for about 30 English actors. But after that, it went swimmingly. They were so incredibly welcoming. You know, I was ready for like rejecting an organ transplant, you know. But everybody was so, I was all prepared. I was all ready with my defensive reaction. Well, I said to myself, I made a little list. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Abraham Lincoln, Richard Nixon, LBJ, Martin Luther King, all played in recent years in major TV and film productions by Englishmen.
Never got to even give that speech.
And so I unveil my Winston Churchill.
And it was a really brilliant moment, because the room all went, wow.
I remember Claire and I, but particularly, weren't we terrified, because the first scene we shot was one of the big argument scene in episode 10. And it was the first time do you remember? And it was in Scotland. It was like the windiest day on record of all time ever. We were outside and we were meant to be having a picnic. Yeah, and she was buttering scones, and the scones were flying everywhere. My headscarf was going like this, flapping, and it was going on my face and sticking to my lipstick, and it was just, I remember looking at me like...
But also, our accents.
I know, it was
like
really
one of the
nasal,
most crucial scenes in episode, and it was the first time we were doing stuff from episode 10, because it was obviously all out of sequence. Definitely like ADR'd or dubbed the whole thing, because I don't know who I was.
It's for you. I don't know.
It was awful. Nervous. It was really, really nasty.
Yeah.
Also, sort of another big one in episode 10 where the sisters kind of had the climax. I think we were both really nervous about, weren't we? And then we did it, and we sort of got through it, and then
we reshot
it. And we changed the ending and reshot it anyway. So it was like a bit more of nothing.
And how nerve-wracking is it to think about maybe Buckingham Palace having Netflix, or anyone in the royal family watching this? Does it give you any sense of extra pressure that, you know, some of the Queen and Philip are alive, their children are alive, they could be watching this?
We all speculated about that a lot, but they are very mum on the subject. And Peter Morgan, he likes a total sort of separation of church and state. But we all have this feeling that we're doing great honor to the whole subject. Of course, you can always be wrong, but you feel like you're treating them with great dignity, even addressing sort of behind-the-scenes issues that are very complicated and difficult. And I especially felt that finally seeing 2 episodes of it. I just saw it for the first time yesterday. You just felt, my gosh, I wish they would. I hope someday they'll make a series like that about me. You know, it's like,
Well, I have gotten to see all 10 episodes. It's remarkable. It just gets better and better and better. And you guys are now in the midst of shooting season 2, right?
He's not.
I'm not.
Yeah.
not I.
We missed John.
And he's not. So it's
And we
we're
missed John.
bereft,
I'm
like
going to keep my
absolutely
fingers
bereft.
crossed. They find a way to flash back somehow.
Yeah. We've basically lost the 2 best actors in it.
I know. It's sad.
Think how we feel.
You can't be queen if I'm still around.
Good point.
I have to shuffle off.
It's like when I played Lord Farquaad and was eaten by a dragon.
We have a couple of audience questions I want to make sure to ask. This is a question from Dash Kalos. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. This is for everybody, and that is, what is the best acting advice you have ever gotten and received? It's a good one. Good one.
I can start.
Go on.
He was mad, the person that told me, but it was the first play I did at the Royal Court. He's called Wilson Malem. He's a big, he's Texan, that's a terrible accent. Anyway, he's a Texan, and every day I'd sort of walk into the room. I had this great part. I was playing a gigolo in New York, and I'd walk in and he'd go, "You again." So that sort of unnerved me. Anyway, right right at the end, and I passed it on to Peter Capaldi, actually, when he took over as Doctor Who. And I left the room, or the pub on the last night, and he said, "Hey, Matt, listen to no one." And that was it.
Wow, that's good.
Which is terrible advice, really, but hey, I passed it on to Peter, so there we go.
Oh, I just thought of mine. An amazing actor I worked with. Once I was doing Shakespeare, and Shakespeare for me was always, it still is always just absolutely terrifying. And he once said, "Listen, there's no need to be scared, because as long as it's true and from you, it'll be new."
Ooh, that's nice.
And I was like, "Oh wow!" So I don't really have to try that hard, because I've never done it before. So it'll be that was good. That made me feel a lot better.
I was in a lovely little movie a couple of years ago called Love is Strange with Alfred Molina. And Ira Sachs wrote and directed this, and his relentless direction to both Fred and me was no acting. Okay, do it again, but no acting. At first, both Fred and I, who are famous scene chewers from way back and theater actors who play to the 40th row, it pissed us off no end. It's like, well, why did you hire me? This is what I do, but my God, we both of us try on sort of parallel tracks. We've discovered this halfway through the film. It sort of dawned on us what he was after. And sure enough, we both at the end of this film had this feeling, this is the best acting we've ever done, because we were constantly told not to do it.
Jared, Vanessa?
Oh, can you think of one?
Well, I remember being in a car with my father, and he said, and we were talking, and he goes, I guess we were talking about acting, and he suddenly goes, acting is to act. I was hoping for more there. But the only other piece of advice that I remember at school from teachers was, because you live in your head and you beat yourself up, and as the words come out of your mouth, you're trying to grab them and stuff them back in and do it again, and you're sort of constantly self-monitoring and going, "Oh, that sucked, and maybe I'll do it better tomorrow." And he said, if you're not having fun, what is the fucking point? You have fun. If it's not working, find a way to have fun, because if you have fun, then the people watching will start to have fun.
I've got so many, but they've all gone from my mind, so obviously I should just give up. But John Hurt just said to me, "Look, darling, just mean what you say what you mean." And I didn't know what that meant, but I'm trying to vaguely do it for most of my life.
Oh, okay, I think our time is up, unfortunately, but thank you so much, all of you, for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.